Welcome to the Medovia Menopause Podcast, your trusted source for evidence-based, science-backed information related to menopause. Medovia is dedicated to changing the narrative about menopause by educating, raising awareness, and supporting women in this stage of life, both at home and in the workplace. Visit medovia.com to learn more. I'm one of your hosts, April Haberman, and I'm joined by Kim Hart. We're co-founders of Medovia, certified health coaches, registered yoga teachers, and midlife mamas specializing in menopause. You're listening to another episode of our podcast, where we offer expert guidance for the most transformative stage of life, bringing you real conversations, education, and resources to help you overcome challenges and reach your full potential through midlife. Join us and our special guests each episode as we bring vibrant, fun, and truthful conversation, and let us help you have a deeper understanding of menopause. Hey friends, I'm excited to share a significant milestone that you may have heard mentioned. Medovia has launched the first ever menopause-friendly U.S. accreditation program. This program sets a comprehensive standard overseen by a third-party panel of experts, ensuring, air quotes, menopause-friendly is more than just a term. It reflects a real commitment to meaningful, sustainable workplace changes. It's important to us that menopause-friendly logo is a Rachel, I've got to do it again. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey friends, I'm excited to share a significant milestone that you may have heard mentioned. Medovia has launched the first ever menopause-friendly U.S. accreditation program. This program sets a comprehensive standard, overseen by a third-party panel of experts, ensuring, air quotes here, that menopause-friendly is more than just a term. It reflects a real commitment to meaningful, sustainable workplace changes. It's important to us that the menopause-friendly logo is meaningful and marks a high standard within the menopause space. We hope you'll join us on the journey to becoming menopause-friendly as a leading pioneer in the States. You can find more information at menopausefriendlyus.com. We have a fun episode today. We talk all things poop. Yes, you heard me right. We're talking about colon care with Janell Hartman. Janelle works with clients interested in stress management and addressing source issues to resolve chronic and acute digestive imbalances. She has the gift of holding space for the process of personal attunement to signals and requests expressed by the body, and helps generate enthusiasm in those just beginning, returning to, or well-traveled in their healing journey. Struggles with digestive issues and depression early in life spurred her towards her path of healing. Yoga was a monumental aspect of her mission for balance, as it recognizes the body, mind, and spirit as an inseparable system which must be tended to as a whole. This was a lifesaver during her decade of social work with homeless women, where she came to embrace the value of self-care and serving others. These days, her love of art, music, meditation, and world travel keep her busy creating and exploring inside and out. Side note, friends, we had some sound difficulties with this episode, but we decided to post it anyway. It's packed with great information we didn't want you to miss, so disregard the bits of sound challenges and enjoy.
Janelle, welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you. Thank you.
Thrilled to be here.
We met. I've been taking yoga for you for years, and you were my yoga teacher when I got my yoga teacher training. And last April, and I saw you was at a restorative yoga class. So it's been a while, but it's really great to have you on the show.
Thrilled. Thank you.
How'd you get involved with poop? Sorry, audience. We're going right to it.
Come in. Yeah, well, I was a client at the clinic that I currently work at called Tummy Temple for around 5 years, getting colonics before I became a colon hydrotherapist. And when I went in, I felt like a colonic was a little bit like skydiving. It was more of a dare, and I was just into trying stuff. But what I found was such a contrast how before and after having the garbage taken out of my colon. And it really just, it made a huge impression on me. I actually processed a lot of emotions. I mean, that area of the body, solar plexus, second chakra, root chakra, so much going on there. And then was learning so much from the technician that was helping me, the woman who was giving me my colonic, educated me all about my digestive system and the importance of needing to move the garbage out into poop. And I feel like that was the beginning of a revolution in my health journey, even though I kind of considered myself really healthy and didn't really think I had anything wrong with my bowel movements. But the improvement changed my life in some pretty key ways. So my second colonic, I decided that I was going to be a colon hydrotherapist. And it was kind of funny because I told her, I'd love to become a colon hydrotherapist, but I feel like it's probably a very competitive industry. And she's like, do you really think people are lined up around the corner to be a colon hydrotherapist? You should definitely. My level of excitement is definitely like, this could be your dharma, and indeed it was. I'm still excited about it as that day, to this very day. That was 12 years ago. So,
could you describe to our audience what a colon hydrotherapist does, and if they came to see you, what does that mean and look like?
Sure. Yeah. So when you come into the clinic, we do an intake. We have some questions about your lifestyle and some of your patterns with food and elimination patterns, things like that, practical questions. And then a colonic involves the closed system colonic, at least, laying very comfortably onto a table, like a massage table. And the instrument that we have is meant to help irrigate the colon. So there's some tubing that attaches is gently inserted, and you basically relax and lay back, and we fill you with water that has a gentle mechanized pressure. We can control the temperature and the pressure. We're usually going very gently, but it's a little bit like an enema. If you've ever had an enema, it fills you up, and we are able to actually eventually go all the way around the colon. And so usually we'll go in a little while. If there's an urge to go, the client will then just kind of go, and it goes into the tube. So there's no smell. You don't have to deal with any poop. It goes inside a little glass, kind of like a little window where I can see things flowing. And as you may know, there's a lot you can tell about what's happening in the body from looking at poop. So it's just raw data for me to analyze as it's going out, and I'm rubbing the belly and massaging and kind of detecting where there's gas or some stuck spots. So you get a nice belly massage. The whole thing is actually very relaxing. And so many times we kind of fill the water in, let it flow out afterwards, and you have a much better day than you started. So yeah.
Well,
colonics
it's so interesting to me, Janelle. I've never had one done, but I imagine it does feel good. Not the process, but just the emptying as well. And I'm curious because of what we do here at Medovia and helping women in midlife and menopause, if there is a link between hormones, digestive health, and overall well-being.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, specifically focusing on menopause, that's a time, when the estrogen is going down, the cortisol tends to rise. Yeah. And when cortisol rises, that does start to suppress the digestive system as well as other things. If we are, if that cortisol is flowing, usually that's an indication to the body that it's not time to digest, definitely not time to reproduce. Like there's a lot more blood going out away from the organs and stuff like that. And so that can definitely increase dryness and constipation. When digestion and the peristalsis slows down, the vagal functions, the vagus nerve functions turn down, then that's going to affect motility. So for sure, that's a time when in Ayurvedic terms, I don't want to introduce such a huge concept. I imagine you probably have introduced terminology in your podcast, but it's where Vata tends to rise, and Vata is that air and space energy that brings dryness. It can bring bloating. It can just kind of bring that like less motility, less digestive fire and juices, all of which contribute to constipation. So
and
that's one of the mechanisms.
and that it is interesting. Stress is so interesting, isn't it? And cortisol and what that does to the body. And I want to come to that a little bit more and unpack that in just a few minutes. But as we think about the constipation and some of those symptoms of the hormonal changes in the body, I want to go deeper here. What does that look like? If I am someone that is in midlife and I'm beginning to see my hormone, the estrogen specifically, drop, I'm beginning to experience some of this constipation. When the poop exits our body, what are some of those changes? What does it look like? And how would I know that beyond the constipation, right? The pain of constipation and the bloating, how would I know that there are things going on in my gut that I need to pay attention to?
Well, I think it's like stools just become a lot drier. Stools become drier. It doesn't always feel as complete. So you know that feeling when you pass a bowel movement and it just all comes out, and usually there's nothing on the toilet paper because you thing off that wasn't done. And so like there's if it doesn't feel complete, if it's drier, also it could be like, oftentimes, when there's reduced motility, there can be more bacteria growing in the poop. And so it can cause that bloating. That's also a result of like reduced peristalsis, which is in the small intestine where the food actually digests before it gets to the colon. And digestive juices that are firing, which comes along with that kind of that reduced motility. Then there can be less like good volatile gallbladder bile, which helps break down fats. And so we can get a sludgy effect. It can feel like slow and sludgy. So that's when we start seeing streaks in the toilet. Yeah. So it can go from being slow and sludgy and kind of greasy to super dry and pellety and just not feeling complete. And those are some of the things that when that vata imbalance is there from that rise in cortisol, that drop in estrogen.
What should your first line of defense be when you notice that it's doing not what it's supposed to be doing? And by the way, when you taught me this the first time, I always look now when I'm finished to make sure that it looks right, and kind of want to bring everyone along in my house to let them show how well I ate and drank water yesterday or whatever. But what's your first line of defense when you notice it's has that kind of characteristic?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I would think about is, okay, how can I actually start to reduce the vata and start to bring in the vagal tone? That's the beautiful thing, is that the vagus nerve is really what is ruling this whole thing, right? And so we want to do things that are going to nourish that. So some of the things that I would do is definitely like take a peek at eating well. What is my sleeping routines? What is my eating routines? Is that erratic? Am I moving with circadian rhythms? Am I having my big meal in the middle of the day, like empowering digestion? Am I doing things am I letting my mind turn off? Usually that air and space energy, the air element is in the heart chakra and the space is in the throat. And so a lot of that vata energy moves up. Now, what we want for elimination is out, right? And so what is it that's going to relax the nervous system? There is a host of amazing vagus nerve exercises now. You can go on YouTube and go down the rabbit hole of breath, of eye movements, of certain types of massage. And so I would say, like, start addressing the nervous system. But then, this is a time when also taking some good digestive enzymes, having that 15 minutes before your meal to just get a little bit more hydrochloric acid flowing. Think digestive juices flowing, right? Number one is the nervous system. Taking some deep breaths. You can even press in on the left side of underneath your rib cage and press downward on your stomach to help to traction the vagus nerve and get it ready to digest. Because usually the constipation is happening way before we get on the toilet, right? It's happening in the upper GI with not processing. And so helping with the vagus nerve, hydration is a big one. And, you may know this, I think this is getting more and more well known, is that drinking water out of just drinking water is not really the way that our bodies want to be hydrated. Like we need to be having structured water that's in fruits and veggies and, adding some electrolytes and things that the body wants to actually really, really, aloe vera juice. These are the things that are going to hydrate you way more than just body. If your body is in a certain type of mitochondrial and electrical state, it's just not going to absorb water being drank down through your digestive tract, right? So we want to absorb it from the foods we eat. And so increasing plants and fruits and veggies, that's also going to increase a variation of gut flora that's going to be able to process things and help. And not only that, help like balance your hormones, right? Eliminate what needs to be eliminated, excess hormones, but then certainly just create the balance and in the bile, the digestive bile profile, in like the way things are processed. So, but and then with eating and diet, it's like we can say we need to eat more of those things, but exploring the circadian rhythm, the wisdom from Ayurveda of Dhinacharya, which means the wheel of the day. So following practices that match where the sun is moving, how the energies of the day are flowing, because vata is ultimately reduced by routine. It's ultimately reduced and soothed by routine. So that would be sort of my way that I would proceed.
I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all of those things we think about, but tying it all together, I think is really important. So the hydration piece and not just drinking water. I didn't think about that. I mean, we always think, 8 glasses of water a day, and then I'm good to go. But it's a good reminder to include the foods that help us absorb, and even the aloe water that you mentioned is good for you. And then, of course, coming back to that vagus nerve, it's so important. And we really haven't talked to our audience that much about the vagus nerve. I think we could do a whole podcast just on the vagus nerve. But can you just, for a side note here, Janelle, talk to us a little bit about what the vagus nerve is for those that don't know what that is, just in layman's terms. What is that?
Absolutely. So we have on each side, we have these 12 down from the brain and innervate into the body. And the 10th one on each side is called the vagus nerve. And it comes out of the brain behind your ears, kind of where the back of your jawbone is, and moves down your neck. And then from there, it branches out. So vagus means, vagus means like wandering. So this nerve wanders all over the body. It innervates down into the heart and into the lungs and into your whole digestive tract. It regulates your respiration, your heartbeat, and all of your digestive processes. And it also modifies our response to stress. So stress and relaxation, it modifies response. So this nerve, like if it is happy, everything's pretty happy. If it gets dysregulated, and dysregulated means either it's too tonic, which that's where we start to see people who feel nauseated or have a lot of diarrhea. Those are some symptoms of upregulated, more of kind of like the, really kind of flighty. And then when it's kind of too low, that tone is too low, that's where we start to see these sluggish things where things are just not kind of firing at the right time. Even brain function can be affected by it. And so the vagus nerve, is something that there's certain points where it comes more to the surface. It can be palpated. They're finding all sorts of ways it can be reset with, like, you probably heard EMDR, like the eye movements, different breath practices. A beautiful one is singing and humming, those types of things. So the vagus nerve is very important for all of those regulations. And thing that really affects it, one of the biggest thing is stress and dysregulated rhythms in lifestyle. So,
yeah. Stress management, it plays such a big role in your life overall, but at midlife with the cortisol going up and the estrogen going down, and you practice a lot of stress relieving activities, for lack of a better word. What's the best way? You talked about breathing, but can you talk more about how to calm that nerve and what you should recognize when it is elevated and that you need to stop and just kind of reset?
Yeah. I think that, I would say that breath is one of the best, is one of the best reflections of what's happening. I'll have people just tune into their breath, like, and notice, are you taking a bunch of inhales and not exhaling? That's a big indicator of when we're dysregulated. The exhale is what calms the nervous system down. It's that out moving breath. And it's also when the diaphragm lifts up to press the breath out of the lungs, which is also pressing on this area that I was mentioning before, underneath the rib cage, this whole upper, we say it's like the upper transverse of the colon, but it's also like where your diaphragm plugs into the spine, where your vagus nerve innervates down into your whole digestive tract. And so that needs to be mobile and moving. And so unfortunately, there's a feedback loop of the stress response where we kind of start inhaling and inhaling and inhaling, which creates a lot of flight. And then the exhale, if we can just consciously bring that awareness in to do that, you'll feel a kind of contrast shift right away. A long, slow exhale is magical. Another thing is just maybe feeling a little bit like, feeling a little spacey, feeling withdrawn. There's a aspect of the vagal tone they call the safe and social circuit. It's more of there's this polyvagal theory where there's a ventral circuit and a dorsal circuit. And the ventral circuit is one that allows us to kind of want to engage with people. It doesn't mean that we're a massive extrovert or anything, but we just feel safe around other humans. You start to feel like really withdrawn and suspicious of people when logically there may be some trauma, right? But logically, it's like if you check in, it's like, I know that logically I'm safe, but my body is reacting to other humans like they're threat. That is an indication also. And that can come with a lot of anxiety and a lot of this dysregulation, just a lot of mental activity that tends to then spin out rather than ground. And so it's hard for us to hold space in ourselves around other humans. That's another indication, kind of in a psychological sense. Certainly the dryness, the constipation, feeling bloated, having an appetite that's out of control or one that's kind of non-existent, like a swing in the appetite, that's another issue as well. Those are just a sprinkle out of, yeah.
I don't think people realize those things, right?
Well,
Are
I don't think
indicators of stress.
either.
Yeah.
You know what I also love too, and I'm going to come back to the singing. I just have this memory of my grandpa and my grandma both. They used to just walk around the house humming all the time. And I thought, oh, as a kid, it used to get on my nerves. And now I'm like, oh, how I would love to hear them hum. And that was so good, right? It was so good for them. And they probably didn't even realize it. Like we all need to walk around singing and humming a little bit more. Simple things like that. And breath, our breath is an amazing thing. We have it from the moment we come into the world to the moment we leave. And we forget that it's there and how powerful it is. So I really appreciate that reminder for sure. Can we come back to diet for just a minute? Because I think diet does play a big role, correct me if I'm wrong, but in our digestive system and our pooping in particular, aside from just generally speaking, eating more fruits, for example, to help with hydration, what are some other tips that you can give our listeners as it relates to nutrition and poop, our digestive system?
Yeah, I think that a really big one is, I said that SOL, seasonal, organic, and local. Now, it's interesting because, seasonal, there's so much more to it than just like, oh, it's really great because it's coming out. People have this idea that that's good. It just sounds like a good idea. Well, one of the things is that as our environment changes and our environment changes around us through the seasons, what's coming out of the ground is actually all the nutrition that we need to adapt to those situations. So the rhythm of the seasons in relation to the food, for example, what's coming out of the ground right now, like asparagus is in season, and it's got those kind of stringy, that's inulin, which is a type of fiber that feeds a certain flora that you need for the functions of this season. Just as one example. So blueberries are starting to come. We need those for sun protection. So there's this way that and your body really it really wants to poop. I mean, it's kind of like get the garbage out. Like your body do that.
Yeah,
we're being invited by nature eating these foods. And one of the best things you can do is actually make it a project to find out what is local and organic and seasonal in your area. Go to the store and see if you can actually get up to, the recommendation, sounds crazy, is 30 different variations of plant foods every week. Could you actually like have a variety of like a rotation of like 30 different things, which includes beans? There's types of beans and things like that. But like, what's in the produce area? I mean, we live in Seattle here, and PCC is really great about like highlighting what's local and stuff. You go to other grocery stores, or not local, but local and seasonal. You go to other grocery stores and you just have everything all the time. So it's hard to tell. So you have to do a little bit of work to understand what that is, if it's not obvious to you, if you're not a gardener or tuned into that already. But see if you can get a really diverse amount of plants. Now, I'm kind of an omnivore, and I know that maybe some people out there are stark vegan or vegetarian, and that's fine. You want to make sure that you're getting enough protein. And in fact, after menopause, we do need more protein. And that is when, when it's not a bad idea to start kind of tapping into, if you're new to eating animal protein, like fish and turkey and these things that are a little easier to digest, but bring in a little, I call it animal magic. Like I take New Zealand grass-fed beef liver capsules. It's freeze-dried. And that it's like nature's multivitamin. And that's one thing that I have found that's created a lot of really great digestive and regulatory health in my bowels, my belly, and my skin, in my brain. So even if it's like, I don't want to eat it, but I can take it in a capsule, it's nice to bring that into it's like lots of plants, some protein, some healthy fats, and what more important than what you're eating is like when and how, right? So the when could be the seasonal thing, but also when is like really like getting up and having a nice digestive breakfast, and then not snacking. That's a big one. Not snacking. Having a really good lunch. The middle of the day is when your bile flow, your digestive bile flow is at its highest. So you can have that nice big meal in the middle of the day. And we know this, right? We hear this. And evening, if you feel fed, maybe you skip dinner, or maybe you have something really light, because we don't have as much bile flow then. So, but a big thing too is not snacking between meals. Eat enough. Like I feel like people like to pick at things and they're afraid to just sit down and have a nice big meal, but like, like your body likes to have that strength. And when you actually feel hungry because you haven't been snacking, that's when your digestive juices are really high. Your body has the most adaptable way of approaching the food, right? It can really absorb it. If you think about building a fire, you don't want to keep throwing wood on the fire all the time. You have to kind of let it burn and get some space in there so that it can move. And our digestive systems are the same way. Stopping snacking in between meals has been a big thing for a lot of my clients, and also for myself and my health. And that's from Ayurvedic wisdom. But there is this thing about like, having these tiny meals throughout the day. And I can tell you, that's the way to ruin your digestion. Over time, it might feel good at first, but then over time, you're not going to be absorbing nutrients. You're not going to be making neurotransmitters, it's going to get weird.
Yeah. There's so much just so much conflicting information. And it's so good to just reiterate eating those full meals instead of nibbling throughout the day, right? We were taught that nibble, 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 and keep your metabolism up. And so, audience, she's saying, and it's not good for our gut. There you go. Yeah. Janelle, can you help us to understand how healthcare providers can help women manage their digestive concerns as they go through midlife? If people wanted to find you, how could they find you? Can you talk to us a little bit about getting help?
Yeah, absolutely. So I work at a beautiful naturopathic clinic in the Roosevelt Lake City area called Tummy Temple. And we have a variety of beautiful naturopathic doctors. They're all like specialized in digestion, but then there's hormone specialists. We have somebody running the IV clinic. We have like all these different, NDs with different specialties. And so I, offer colonics there. I'm also a lymphatic therapist. So the last 7 years I've been a lymphatic drainage specialist there. And that's a really great place to come. You can get an initial consult with an ND. We also have an amazing nutritionist who studied at Bastyr. She's been doing it for many, many years. And one of her magical qualities, she's just so able to connect to each person. And it's not like, because sometimes nutrition is like, here, this is what's healthy, eat this. And it's like, no, we have to look at the body. I will say your blood type eating is really amazing. That's another little dietary tip. But she'll look at that. She'll look at like, well, how much time do you have? Do you like shopping? Do you, like, do you have kids running around? When do you have time to cook? Let's see what meals would be helpful. And then she's really good. She's also a colon hydrotherapist and lymphatic therapist and just really smart. And so she can kind of figure out how to make you like food delicious, but also fit, what you need. She's a great person to ask, like, you know what, I'm constipated all the time. I'm postmenopausal. She would know exactly what to tell you to eat. She would figure it out. Yeah. So that's a really great place to find me and my comrades who are just brilliant. And then, of course, I have a podcast called Mindful Medicina, all one word, lowercase podcast. And we have a lot of really great episodes on there. In fact, we've talked about menopause, and we've, talked all about things that I've mentioned today.
Amazing. I've been to the Tummy Temple and I've had a lymphatic massage from you, and it was incredible. I can't say enough about it. I actually scheduled an acupuncture session the next day, and I was floating on a cloud for like days. I just back to back, I was like, I don't know why I scheduled this, but apparently I needed it. So taking care of it. Well, Janelle, this is like, we could talk to you for hours, and I know sometimes you do the poop talk at the Tummy Temple, and I've always wanted to be a part of that. So thanks for, normalizing poop and talking through all the things. We really enjoyed having you today. We're going to move on to rapid fire. It's real easy, but fun. Do you prefer rainy days or sunny days?
That's interesting. I love sunny days. Rainy days are great for getting stuff done inside.
It's true. It's so true, because we don't feel guilty when we're inside and it's raining, right? Yeah.
While it rains, make hay inside.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, how about early bird or night owl?
Early bird. I get up at 4 a.m. just about every day. And that's a big part of like the regulating the nervous system. It doesn't have to be 4 a.m., but before 6 a.m. is what's recommended in Ayurveda. And that's a really nice time to do those centering practices that set the tone for the whole day, that set that in your body. So I'm an early bird big time.
And April does that early.
Oh, I know. Yes, now you're speaking my language. Get up early, start those practices. You're right. It just sets your day right off the bat. Yeah.
Hot showers or relaxing baths?
Relaxing baths. I actually very rarely take showers. I have a little tub that I wash my hair with. I am a bath junkie, so I haven't turned on my shower in a very long time. I bathe.
What do you put anything in the water?
Oh my gosh, you just took the question right from me there. I'm like, wait, what do you do? Yeah. Are there certain things you like to put in the bath?
Yeah, kind of all depends. If I'm just kind of washing myself and get ready for work, and not really anything, but if I'm taking a soak, I love the Epsom salts. I will use fulvic acid sometimes, just do a little detox. Like some essential oils. Yeah, things like that. Yeah, if I'm kind of sometimes I'll get like detox formulas you can dump in there if I'm doing different types of metal cleansing or parasite cleansing.
So great. Yeah. My daughter is a bath person, and she takes one almost every day. My husband will get home and say, "Where's Rachel?" I'm like, I bet you can't guess.
She's in the tub.
Bet you can't guess. It's good for you in many ways. Okay. The last question that we ask everyone is, what is the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Best piece of advice I've ever received. I think, like, if I've received so much good advice. If I were to distill it down as something that means the most to me, it's obey, only love. And
Oh.
I just feel like there's so much of a program we have of the tribe and of, you know, other people's ideas and ancestral ideas of who we're supposed to be. And you know, I've always been a very kind of rebellious person, but I find that like I really have an obedience to my inner voice, to my God inside. And I feel like it harmonizes me. I can feel the harmony of all the yogic teachings and all. So that's kind of like, I feel that I'm very rebellious, and yet I obey love. And that has brought a lot of happiness and has steered me pretty right through my life. So best advice.
I love your energy. Always makes me feel so centered and grounded. Thank you.
For sure. Yeah.
Well,
this has been really great. I do. I love your energy too, and just who you are. And there's so many more podcasts that we could have you on, because you know so much, not just about poop, but so many other things. So I'm sure this won't be the last time that we see you, but it's been really fun. And listeners, until we meet again, go find joy in the journey.
Thanks, Janelle.
Thank you for listening to the Midday Menopause Podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe for future episodes, leave a review, and share this episode with a friend. There are more than 50 million women in the U.S. who are navigating the menopause transition. The situation is compounded by the presence of stigma, shame, and secrecy surrounding menopause, posing significant challenges and disruptions in women's personal and professional spheres. Midday is out to change the narrative. Learn more at midday.com. That's MIDOVIA.com.